Hey folks, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how we can send our CloudWatch events to Kinesis. So in the DevOps doctrine, let's go ahead and click Using Kinesis with CloudWatch. When you're taking the certification exams at the associate level, it's generally enough to understand a service and what you can do with it and how to do it. And at the professional level, it gets more complex with use cases and how various services interact with each other. And I'm attempting to show a wide range of things you can do with CloudWatch, how CloudWatch interacts with other services. Shown a lot from the front end of how our EC2 instance log data can be tied to CloudWatch alarms and CloudWatch events. Certainly our auto-scaling groups and the instances within them, elastic load balancers, but also on the back end, all of this data, the logging data, CloudWatch events, can be taken further and analyzed. The CloudWatch event data can be taken to Kinesis, and from there it can be shipped to various services, some of which are Kinesis Analytics or Redshift or Elasticsearch. So it's good to understand all of these interactions between services from end to end. And in this lesson, again, I'll show how CloudWatch events can be tied to Kinesis. And you can probably expect to see a couple Kinesis questions on the DevOps level exams. So by stepping through this lesson, we can learn by doing, and the retention of these concepts will be much better. Now, on the diagram, I have an auto-scaling group, and we certainly could do that, but by now you've seen me spin up enough auto-scaling groups. Concept is the same, though. So I'm just going to launch two EC2 instances. One will be my management instance, and the other will be the demo instance that we're actually going to stop. So let's go and launch two instances. As always, Linux AMI and T2 Micro are fine. And again, I'm going to launch two instances and launch. And I'll create a new key pair, call it test for Kinesis, and download. And finally, I can launch. All right, now while those are spinning up, let's talk about what we're going to do. So I'm going to SSH into the management instance. I will configure AWS, enter my access key, secret access key, and my region. And then I'm going to create a Kinesis stream. I like to mix in when possible doing things from the command line. It's certainly fast and lends itself to scripting things, which is great. So we'll create the Kinesis stream. Need to give the stream a name and a shard count. And then the described stream will let us know when our stream is ready. So having created a Kinesis stream, we can go back into the console, go to CloudWatch, go to Events. We'll create a rule for EC2, Instance State Change Notification, very similar to what we did in the last lesson with SNS. And again, this is where an understanding of the different use cases is important for the DevOps Pro level certifications. So certainly, as we saw, we can create a CloudWatch event and email our support team. But we can also send this data to Kinesis for further analysis. And Kinesis can send this to our services that can analyze further. Kinesis Analytics, Redshift, Elasticsearch. We go to Events and we create a rule for instance state change notification. And then we choose the Kinesis stream as a target. Whereas in the last lesson, we chose our SNS topic as the target. Now, we can test all of this by simply stopping our demo instance. And then we'll go back into CloudWatch and verify that CloudWatch has logged this event. And we'll take one more step in our verification. We'll go back to the command line and we'll get the shard iterator. And this will allow us to start reading from the Kinesis stream. And then using this command will produce an output, a very long shard iterator, which we'll see. Using that, we can get the actual record that was sent from CloudWatch to Kinesis. All right, so our instances are ready. And again, let's name those. I'm going to name one management, abbreviated, and demo. We're going to SSH into management, and ultimately we will stop the demo instance. So I'm going to grab my SSH information for the management instance. And I'm going to change my split screen to have the management console and a terminal window to complete the lab. Now, just to be clear, on the diagram, I'm showing downstream from Kinesis Analytics, Redshift, and Elasticsearch. That's kind of the next step in this, but it's just notional. I'm not actually going to send the Kinesis data downstream and analyze it. Could be a really long lesson. So we're just going to focus on the interaction between EC2 and CloudWatch and Kinesis, and verify the delivery of our record or records to Kinesis. So I have the terminal window up, and I need to get to the downloads directory, change permissions on my key pair, and then I can SSH into the management instance. Just clean up my screen. Okay, I'm going to run AWS configure. And I retrieved and downloaded my access key and secret access key in the IAM section of the management console. Enter my region. Okay. All right, now this is the command to create our Kinesis stream. And we have to give the stream a name and provide a shard count. So our shard count is 1, but we could put more shards on the job and increase this count, but not necessary for this situation. So let's run that. Okay, no news is good news, but we can use the old trust but verify philosophy. So we can describe the stream and just provide the stream name, and we're going to get a bunch of data, but what we're looking for is stream status active. So once it's active, we are ready to go, and it doesn't take long. Note the stream has an ARN, and note 24-hour retention period. That's just informational. Okay, so we have an active stream. Now, let's go over to CloudWatch and create an event and make this stream our target. Let's go into Events, Create Rule, and this is much like last lesson. Now again, we could have created an auto-scaling group, but we just have EC2 instances, so I'm going to select EC2, and there's our boy, EC2 Instance State Change Notification. Now, I'll show specific states. So, we could look for very specific states: pending running, shutdown, stopping, terminated. But let's just do any state. And likewise, we could look at specific instances. But we only have 2 instances, and we know which instance we're going to stop. So let's just keep that any instance. And of course, we need to add a target. Could be a Lambda function. And this is really important. Again, what can you do downstream from CloudWatch? Kinesis stream, which is what we're going to do Lambda function. We've seen SNS topic, SQSQ, SSM, step function state machine, and we won't undertake that science project here. So we select Kinesis stream and our target, test Kinesis. So there we go. This is an important point. CloudWatch events need permission to send events to Kinesis. By continuing, you are allowing us to do so. Create a new role, or we could use an existing role. But let's just create a new role. And again, we could add another target. We could add multiple targets. Add at most 5 targets. So, like last lesson, we could also send this to SNS and continue to notify our personnel. We could send it to Lambda and do anything under the sun in our Lambda function. So it really comes down to the use case. What do you need to do with this CloudWatch information? Start thinking in use cases, and it'll really help on the AWS Pro level exams. So let's click Configure Details, give it a name and description, and create our role. Role already exists. Okay, so EC2 is tied to CloudWatch. CloudWatch is tied to Kinesis. We have our end-to-end system in place. Let's go back over to EC2, go into Instances, and we want to stop our demo instance. Now remember, we are catching any state change, so any of these would actually work. But let's just stop it. Yes. Okay, so our instance is stopping. Let's go back over to CloudWatch. Let's go into Rules. And let's click on our Test Kinesis 2 rule. And we want to show the metrics for the rule. And let's take a look at triggered rules, which we should have just done by stopping our demo instance. And note our little dot here. Okay, so again, we stopped the EC2 instance, and we have our event here. Now remember, our target was Kinesis. Let's go back to our management instance. With our AWS Kinesis get shard iterator command, we can start reading from our Kinesis stream. So we need to provide the shard ID, shard iterator type, trim horizon. And trim horizon means start reading at the last untrimmed record in the shard in the system, which is the oldest data record in the shard. And of course, we provide our stream name. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, and it returns our shard iterator. And I like to try to memorize these in my spare time, but we'll go ahead and copy and paste. Okay, so our next command will get the record placed in our Kinesis stream from our CloudWatch event. So it's AWS Kinesis get dash records, and we provide the shard iterator. And again, this shard iterator was provided as output from the last command. Looks like somebody bought a vowel here. Assuming my copy and paste was precise, we should get some good output. So I'm going to run that. Okay, so the command returned 2 records. So we are successfully sending data from CloudWatch to Kinesis based on our EC2 state change. Now, obviously, this data isn't human readable. So the data in here is base 64 encoded, but I can assure you that if we base 64 decoded this message, it would be the event relayed to our Kinesis stream in JSON format. And again, the typical next step would be to send this downstream, Kinesis Analytics, Elasticsearch, Redshift, various options, and we can send this data downstream for detailed analysis. Okay, but switching back to our diagram, the key takeaway is just to start thinking of these end-to-end solutions when you see the questions on the exam, basically that give you the requirements. Start thinking about your end-to-end solutions. So if ultimately you need to do some extensive analysis on your CloudWatch log data, something like this is a valid end-to-end solution. Send your data to Kinesis. Kinesis sends it further downstream for analysis. Kinesis Analytics or Redshift, Elasticsearch. So that's the big picture, and understanding how these services interact to architect solutions is key. And with that, we have completed this lesson. Go ahead and mark it complete, and let's move on to the next.